I'm Dream Queen, you're in the cab with me. Thank you so much for rolling. Appreciate you, I really do. Every aspect. I appreciate all of our interactive moments. Welcome back to the book club. We are looking at Kahlil Gibran's The Prophet. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. If you missed some of this book club, go on over to In the Cab Radio at mixcloud.com or youtube.com or Instagram for a lead. In the Cab Radio at. And you can find free links to archives of the show. I have to admit that I am 2 shows behind. There is plenty there from this project, The Prophet, and also from previous books. All About Love is exclusively on Mixcloud. Haven't got that over to YouTube yet, but you can listen to it for free there. You can also get a free copy, I've been telling people this, of The Prophet because it's in public domain. You can download PDFs several places on the internet. So please do that. Do that for yourself. I talked about how famous this book is and why last month, and that it has been in continuous publication. I think it is the longest running book in history. And we also told you that Al-Mustafa, the chosen one, he is the prophet referred to in the title. His ship that is coming to take him back to his homeland, he sees it coming on the horizon. He is a traveler, a sage, a foreigner, a stranger, an immigrant who came to the land of Orphalese. He stayed there as a hermit, and the people of the village accepted him as their own. Though he did not spend much time among them, he observed them from his station, night and day, known and unbeknownst to them. And now it's time for him to go, and they've gathered wanting to know what he observed of them, how he filtered his perceptions, and what he can teach them and leave with them as a gift. Almitra is a seer woman who was the first person to welcome Al-Mustafa to Orphalese. She met him in the square along with everyone else before the great temple. We've pointed out not inside, but in the plaza outside. And she's leading the conversation. She asked the first time to speak to us of love. And we covered that last week. Her next request, chapter 2. Then Almitra spoke again and said, "And what of marriage, master?" And he answered, saying, "You were born together, and together you shall be forevermore. You shall be together when the white wings of death scatter your days. Aye, you shall be together even in the silent memory of God. But let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of the heavens dance between you. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping. For only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together. For the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. Of Marriage, from the Prophet, by Kahlil Gibran. Published in 1923 by Alfred Knopf. I'm Dream Queen. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. In my limited understanding of marriage, I actually have none. I've successfully avoided it. And I will say that partnership, I understand. And I'm learning more every day to reach overstanding. It's overstanding because when we understand a thing, we put ourselves beneath it. When we overstand something, we come from a vantage point of being above it, being able to perceive all the vantage of it, and we do not diminish ourselves and our experience and our learning. We receive it. And so when we talked all about love last year, chapter 8 is called Community. And it's about loving communion. And I want to read the opening quote and a few passages from that chapter. This is a refresher, right? I need to go back, not only reread this entire book and listen to all of those shows and relearn what I learned, and also to use this wisdom to integrate what is new that I'm learning about myself and my role on this planet. And I know that Bell Hooks drew from a lot of older writings and wisdoms to put her interpretation of what she considered a new vision for love and how we can be a more loving community, all of us on the globe. This quote is from Parker Palmer, who is an author, an educator, and a teacher. I was just sort of checking him out during the last hour, and I just think he's someone that I might follow up on here. The quote is this: "Community cannot take root in a divided life. Long before community assumes external shape and form, it must be present as a seed in the undivided self. Only as we are in communion with ourselves can we find community with others." Parker Palmer. I relate this to the poem on marriage because it's about solitude. Both pieces are about the value of knowing thyself and what we can bring to the table as whole individuals, what we can bring to a partnership when we are whole. This is the opening paragraph, page 129. She's talking about M. Scott Peck's book, The Different Drum. Community, making, and peace. She says there is no better place to learn the art of loving than in community. Scott Peck says he defines community as the coming together of a group of individuals. Some may define marriage as the pairing of individuals. Some may define romantic relationship as hinging on 1 + 1 make 3. 1 + 1 make 3. Me plus you equals what we create, which is a third thing, which is our relationship. It is not us. It is not I. It is not you. It is a creation that we've made together. Peck defines community as the coming together of a group of individuals, quote, who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other and make each other's conditions our own. End quote. Well, that's pretty intense. To make each other's condition our own. That's a difficult thing to do in our society today, I would say. Right? In order to make someone's condition our own, we must know their condition. In order to know their condition, we must receive their explanation of their condition. In order for us to receive an explanation, our partner must first understand the vibration of their own strings, so to speak. To bring it back to Gibran, even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. I believe the music is love, life, divinity. But we must each be attuned, even though we may not vibrate always at the same frequency. We must be attuned to ourselves and the higher vibration of the song. Bell Hooks says on page 135, we're going to take a couple of tips here. Trust is the heartbeat of genuine love. Trust is the heartbeat of genuine love. What inspired me to pull that quote was the insecurity that many people get when we give space. I believe there's a lack of trust pervasive in our culture, not without good reason. Many of us have experienced abuse. Many of us have experienced betrayal, letdowns, broken promises, etc. Trust is not easy to come by here. So we hold on tight to our partners, to our friends, to our family members, those ones that we do feel safe with to some degree. We're afraid often to let them go. Not everyone. If you don't have any problems with this, great. I'm speaking to as a person with abandonment issues. So embracing, loving with an open hand. If you love something, set it free. referring again to the falcon I met last week and his trainer talking about the method in which she trains. The goal is to be able to set that bird free and have him choose to come back. How we love ourselves, how we are honest with ourselves, because trust is fundamentally based on honesty. I can't trust you if you're not honest with yourself. Maya Angelou is quoted as saying, I can't love anyone who doesn't love themselves. I can't trust someone who doesn't love themselves. Is one of those. It just popped into my head just now. I don't have that right in front of me, but they're pretty close, right? Because love involves trust. And I understand what that means. We can't be expected to trust what is so open to volatility. It's understandable. It takes bravery. So when we say, let there be spaces in your togetherness, let the heavens dance between you, fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. And I used to scratch my head a little bit, and I'm looking at this back and forth, and then I realize you have to let your person eat and drink of others' gifts of nourishment. And you have to trust them. You have to trust them to sail the river and know that what they're doing out there is what, y'all? Help me out. Somebody here, help me out. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning. Who remembers Scott Peck's definition of love? Who remembers? How does it relate? The answer is right here. As our partners go and eat and drink of life's bread and wine and water, they fulfill themselves and they allow them to be fulfilled from life. And when we let them go, we exercise what? Quote, the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Hooks says on page 136, I have been raised conventionally to believe this relationship was special and should be revered above all. She's talking about an intimate partnership. Most women and men born in the 50s or earlier were socialized to believe that marriages and or committed romantic bonds of any kind should take precedence over all other relationships. Here's the underline. Had I been evaluating my relationship from a standpoint that emphasized growth rather than duty and obligation, I would have understood that abuse irreparably undermines bonds. All too often, women believe it is a sign of commitment, an expression of love, to endure unkindness or cruelty, to forgive and forget. In actuality, when we love rightly, we know that the healthy, loving response to cruelty and abuse is putting ourselves out of harm's way. Even though I was a committed feminist as a young woman, all I knew and believed in politically about equality was, for a time, overshadowed by a religious and familial upbringing that had socialized me to believe that everything must be done to save the relationship. Further on page 138, she says, and it has been the experience of both living in fear of abandonment in romantic relationships and being abandoned that has shown us that the principles of love are always the same in any meaningful bond. To love well is the task in all meaningful relationships, not just romantic bonds. Satisfying friendships in which we share mutual love provides a guide for behavior in other relationships, including romantic ones. They provide us all with a way to know community. Be free. Be not afraid of a bond, for it does not have to shackle you. When you love with an open hand and allow the other to become fully rooted in their selfhood and take that time apart to become fully rooted in your own selfhood, it adds an aspect of security that can be surprising. You fully understand that you cannot be alone when you have a strong sense of self, a sense of spiritual connection, and you can tend to that third thing like a garden. Like a garden. It always amazes me how much I can just prattle on here on the microphone by myself in this room. I really appreciate all of you for being here and for listening. Vote. Whoever you're going to vote for, I'm not here to tell you this, but go. That's this week. So we're going to know who our next president is. Hopefully we'll know this by the next time you and I are together. So that's interesting. We'll know that. Remember love. Remember the tools in your toolkit. Remember to try to stay as positive as you can, because no matter what happens, like the Gil Scott-Heron album title from the last hour, there's nothing new here. We don't want to go back. Obviously, nobody wants to go to harder times. However, we have been through hard times. We have survived genocide. There are those of us, no matter how much they tried, they are not able to kill us off. Do not despair. We've been through it as women. We've been through it as queers. We've been through it as Black and Indigenous people of color. We are still going through it. We have been through and are still going through it as poor people. Yes, I've said before, it seems like we're frogs in a pot. Well, it's a long simmer, y'all. This pot's been on the fire for about 500-600 years. Okay? And somehow we have continued to keep going through the struggles of our ancestors, the work, not just the struggles, the successes. Stay on the battlefield. Vote. Of course, I care how the outcome comes. However, I'm not attached, because I know whatever happens, my job as a marginalized person has been and always will be the same. To survive, to teach, to learn, to overstand. Those are my directives from when I entered this planet. They will not change no matter who wins this election, because we still have far to go. And I'm never going to let y'all off the hook. Ever. I don't care if we have the first black woman president ever. Like, I care because I think that's really important. I do. However, I know that that's not just where the success is going to happen. We got to hold everybody accountable for every single thing. And we have to overcome our shortcomings. I'm not going to be mad at any of y'all, because my goal is to remain, or to not remain, because I don't have it yet. My goal is to get to being unattached to the outcome. Homie the other day was talking to me about detachment. I had a reaction because I am attached to a lot of things, like, surviving, my family, them being provided for. I'm attached to heat and a roof over my head. I'm attached to a whole bunch of things. And that leads me into what I really, what I wanted to extend around the marriage situation. Time. Time seems daunting sometimes. It seems like the more that time goes by, maybe we lose something because we miss the person. We miss the feeling that we get when we're with the person. And time is so relative. It can be fast. It can drag out. And it can do both at the same time in our minds, because everything is controlled by our minds. So as I read these things and I impart these wisdoms, I am doing it with the full understanding that none of this is easy for anyone. Nobody said it was going to be easy. Nobody is saying, hey, just go heal. No one is saying that. This is where the spirituality comes in. It's about finding comfort in pain. And I've said this before, and I will bring it back again. The fact that at KahlilGibran.com, the Kahlil Gibran scholar who is talking about all of the different places that this little book is found, it is has been requested repeatedly by prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. And if you don't know what Guantanamo Bay is, look it up. It is shameful, the legacy of abuse that is committed by our military. And Guantanamo Bay has things on record that you can see. The people there are in pain. And they seek comfort in this little book. So, I just want to say, when you get through the things, I'm just going chapter by chapter, and then I try to sprinkle a little bit of balm or whatever in between chapters and lines. And I can't get to it all. I can't get to all the comfort. I can't comfort you through it all. I can just throw a few things out there. Like, time, they say heals, but it can also hurt. So consider that. I spoke about honesty. Hooks has a chapter. It's a chapter that changed my life, and it continues to change my life. It's chapter 3. It's called Honesty. Be true to love. And that's really painful, to be honest. That's why there's a thing now where people say, blah, 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 to be honest. And I once heard someone say, well, why do people open up a statement with, honestly, blah, blah, blah? Or, if you want me to tell you the truth, X, Y, Z. And this person goes, does that mean that you're lying the rest of the time? And I say no. It's a bracing I think to tell someone, I'm about to be honest with you in this way that is hard for me or might be hard for you to hear or a little confusing, right? I want to lie, but I'm going to be honest right now. And so those 3 letters, TBH, those 3 words, to be honest, very small, but they have a lot of weight. And I want you to pause every time you hear somebody say that and give them grace and steel yourself against what personal way you may take their honesty, their truth, because it's a vulnerability, a sharing. So whether you're married, in a long-term committed partnership, a situationship, friendship, just understand that I'm not here to preach at you about what you should be doing and what, if you just do this, then that'll happen. Nah. Be gentle with yourself. Be easy on yourself and others. And recognize that everybody has to reconcile something. Many things we are all reconciling because we're put on this planet to grow. We're put on this planet to learn some stuff and then teach others. And that's real talk. So, thanks for hanging in with me, y'all. Appreciate you as always.